Good morning and welcome to Monday Meditation with Mickey. I have a couple of thoughts I want to share with you today, and it looks like it's going to be another beautiful day like it was yesterday. Yesterday, I hope you got out. I did. I had to run to the grocery store for a couple of things, but as I was in the parking lot, I ran across a friend, not ran across, but you know what I mean, and talked with him. His name is Richard. Usually, Richard and a couple of others and I meet once a week at Chick-fil-A for breakfast. We have some very interesting conversations as Richard is Jewish, a couple of others are Christians, a couple are actually atheists, and so we have some interesting conversations. But it's been really interesting to me that Richard, being Jewish, has a lot of questions. And it is interesting to me that Richard has been to Israel around 7 times, especially into Jerusalem. And so this really brings up a lot of questions for him because he will visit different Christian sites, not necessarily just Jewish sites, but Christian sites, such as the Mount of Olives, the Garden of Gethsemane, and all the different things, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where Jesus was buried, and so various things like that we'll have conversations about, and he'll explain what it looks like and bring out some maps and show me and the others a lot of that kind of stuff that he has learned on these trips. So after catching up on all this that's gone on over the last few weeks, Richard and I talked about that this was Palm Sunday. And so he had some interesting questions. And when he has these questions, he will usually go search it out online. And he had done that about Palm Sunday and especially about Jesus riding into Jerusalem on a donkey colt. In his search, he found out that it was important that Jesus rode a donkey colt into Jerusalem because Jesus was bringing peace. He was not coming to conquer like riding on a horse, but bringing peace. So I told Richard that in the morning sermon that Pastor Scott brought us, he had brought out the fact that Jesus was coming in peace, and that people were laying palm branches down and laying down their coats on the road as Jesus rode by on the donkey, and that meant that Jesus did not come in a military way, but came in a peaceful way. And so Richard was really interested in that and wanted to know a little bit more about that. And so I explained some more things to him. And the ride that took place from around the Mount of Olives through the Garden of Gethsemane area, through the valley and up the hill into Jerusalem, that Jesus was gathering these people in a certain sense to show them he was coming in peace. And so that kind of made me begin thinking, what would it have been like to have been there as part of the crowd, to have watched him as he journeyed down the Mount of Olives into Jerusalem, through the valley and into Jerusalem. And I thought that was very interesting to place myself into that and to be part of the crowd that actually was yelling, Hosanna. And I want to read this to you out of Mark chapter 11. And it says, many people carpeted the road with their clothing, while others spread out green palm branches, which they had cut in the fields. Those who were ahead and those behind shouted, Hosanna, or please deliver us. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And that also means in the power and authority of the Lord, because they saw Jesus as that Messiah. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. And they also shouted, "You in the highest heaven, please deliver us." Jesus entered Jerusalem, went into the temple courts, took a look around at everything, but since it was now late, he went out with the 12 to Bethany. So I picture myself as being in that crowd and seeing what happened and watching what Jesus did. And this really began understanding to people that, hey, maybe Jesus is the Messiah. Um, but they saw the Messiah as being more of a military person, a conquering person that would bring peace, a rule over the Romans. And so this to me is kind of a convoluted thing. And in the Lenten devotional that I've been reading for these last few weeks, Dr. Middendorf has written something very interesting that I think could be of help to us. He writes, "In many ways, we live this Palm Sunday tension throughout our Christian journey. There are moments of praise, of breathless joy and adoration, of thanksgiving to God for his faithfulness and love. We must watch for these moments. We dare not try to create them or force them. They come in the journey as we worship, as we read the Word, as we join with the community of faith in sharing the sacraments, and as we serve the needs of the least and the last." And so it must have been really an exhilarating experience, but yet it wasn't exactly what a lot of them pictured. So last week I asked you to slow down, and in the middle of our stay-at-home policy, I asked you to not get so busy again, but to slow down and take advantage of this time to connect with God more. I hope that that has helped this past week. And today I ask that as you read scriptures like what we just read and what we know is important for us, that you would take advantage of it, that you would place yourself in those situations. What would it have been like for a first person experience to really know that God is involved in our lives and a part of our lives? As we close today, I'm going to read the prayer out of this Lenten book that Dr. Middendorf wrote. And he writes, "Jesus, in many ways, you are not the king we wanted, but you are the king we need. To you we cry out, Hosanna, save us, deliver us, unshackle our hearts, that we might love and serve you and one another more faithfully. We do not claim to perfectly understand you, but we will seek to perfectly obey you. Pour out your Spirit upon us, that we may see you and what you're doing in us and around us more clearly. Hosanna, Hosanna, come, King Jesus." That is a great prayer. And if we say it from our hearts, God will answer that prayer, and we will begin to see him more at work in us during this Holy Week. My prayer for you is that you would stay safe, that we'd be praying for those who have been more involved in the COVID-19 situation, and that we would be used by God in the kingdom for this